It's been bad. Truth is, yesterday I sliced my finger open with a knife. On accident. But there's been really, really rainy weather. So instead of it being hot and muggy like I was trying to explain in my last video of this sort, it's just been cold and dark. All day and all night long. I'm currently writing the script for this because I felt like I had to. I've been watching Welcome to the NHK and doing more self-analysis. I called my dad back home and talked to him about how I was feeling. How I cut my finger, obviously, because that sucks, and how I wished I could just be separate from this world. Sit in my own space and not be bothered by anyone. How I hate networking. How I hate talking to people, even friends, like they will turn on me or not care at all, or why should I care about what they have going on? In my last sentimental video, you probably saw my bed, and where I do my schoolwork and edit videos below it. Something you may not have taken note of, however, was the black blanket draped slightly on the side. My roommate and I get along really well. I like him. I mean, we chose to be roommates for a reason, but even from him, I need isolation. When you don't have your own place, it feels like there's nowhere to escape. I've had this sort of immature urge to just scream recently, or just yell really loudly. It's something that I could have easily done whenever I was back home, but now I'm in the big city. I live in a dorm, and almost any place I go, there will be people. So I drape a blanket that I can pull out at any time I want to seclude myself, completely isolate myself within the dimensions of a twin bed. And for some reason, that makes me feel less anxious, like I'm free. But in reality, I am sitting within the horizontal dimensions of a twin bed with not enough room to even stand up. This should make me feel trapped. So why do I feel the opposite? Separate from the world, the storms, the anger, the hate, the confusion, this misinterpretation, where I can sit on Reddit and Twitter and make YouTube videos and watch anime, all that I please. So I guess this is my video on Welcome to the NHK. It may not be written in one sitting. I hope you trust me. Is Sato a worthless human being? Maybe. Is Sato a repeated and indulgent failure? Absolutely. Can he do better? I should probably set a scope for this. I'm discussing the depths of the anime, not the light novel or the manga, as I am aware that they differ drastically in some key parts. Just 24 episodes. The agreement Sato and Misaki come to at the end of the show is really interesting, tragic, but also bland to me. It marks positively for the characters in a sense, but it doesn't really resolve. I'm sure that they did that on purpose. The story, at the end of the day, isn't focused on romance, but on its central themes. Suicide, and the idea of one's life's worth is something that's toyed around with a lot in this series. First asking how much one life is worth, and how much one can reconcile their own worth in regards to others. Think back to the agreement between Sato and Misaki. In my microeconomics class, there was an entire hour and 15-minute session where the professor went on about creating value. About worth being created by exchange without creation. He would say, one boy has a basketball and the other has a baseball. The boy with the basketball doesn't care for basketball. He wants to play baseball. And the other boy who has the baseball doesn't care for baseball. Instead, he wants a basketball to play with. Neither of these items hold any value to their respective owners. But when these two trade, suddenly the value of these items goes through the roof. Value has been created without creation. Different people see value and are willing to pay different amounts for different things. That's why I say that the agreement between Sato and Misaki at the end of the show is bland, despite being tragic and almost romantic, if not extremely morbid. Sato will die to keep Misaki alive because Misaki means much more to him than his own trapped hikikomori life, and Misaki doesn't see a world worth living in if Sato is not reliant on her and does not feel needed. Misaki is initially painted out as a pixie dream girl, an unrealistic character who comes to save a college dropout, jobless, hobbyless, sleep 16 hours a day and talk to himself the remaining 8, failure of a person. Someone who would appear to have no redeeming qualities and does not look particularly attractive either, based on what Sato himself states that she could do better. It definitely looks like that too. She's so gentle and kind, but whenever he yells, he's violent. even borderline pedophilic at times, she for some reason stays by him. It's the sort of thing that I've seen to some extent or another criticized in other escapist media, nerd culture related things. Heck, Scott Pilgrim, my favorite comedy movie and one of my favorite comics, has this trope to an extent. Point is, it's unrealistic, but it's the hope that we crave. Someone who is so pathetic like myself, in my own experience, I know for a fact that I could find somebody who I thought was fairly attractive, or at least as attractive as I perceive myself, hit it off with them, maybe get in a relationship. But I choose not to do that. I hold myself up, I avoid people, and I wait for somebody to come knocking on my door to rescue me. If the phrase mentioned initially 2 paragraphs prior didn't clue you in, let me emphasize on this. Misaki is not a manic pixie dream girl. She's a breakdown of this trope in almost every aspect, just by being human and having justifiable motivations and problems of her own. Some people see her as a bad person and have gone even as far to label her as manipulative and selfish, but of course she is. It doesn't mean that she's a bad person. The part of Misaki that we really see highlighted in her struggle is her ability to try to keep positive. Her trying to do good things to keep her own sanity intact, to preserve self-worth by extolling herself as above others, so that maybe if she does good enough, she will stop seeing everything that she has had in her life ruined in front of her. And after all, Misaki has achieved even less than Sato. She needs to be needed, to be convinced that it isn't all her fault. That perhaps if there was a god, that he would be evil and that she could blame him instead of casting her self-hatred upon herself. She could stop feeling purposeless, useless, directionless, worthless. Sato's in the same field with different equipment. He may not seek worth in God, in other people, but he seeks it in conspiracy. It's all a conspiracy. There's a reason that everything has been done so badly to him, that he's become so pathetic. They are the reason. The NHK, an elaborate scheme set up to keep economic classes separate. Except they are not. The NHK is just like God in this story, an object to reflect the blame of misery onto, because it should be evident that the world is not a fair place. People are not given equal hands. Misaki should know that her life conditions are not her fault, but how could she? When the rugs are taken out from under people, there is a force of action. An action that is seen many times in the show with both results. When the rug is pulled out, do you jump or do you fall? Meaning, do you give up, give in, and quit your existence, or do you reach out for what you felt was previously impossible and grow to a better place? I've been writing the script since I released the Deku Shinji video. I've fallen into a loop. I stay away from everyone. Why should they talk to me? Why should I talk to them? Most of the time, I can't get myself to even care. Sit in my dim room, writing, editing, and watching YouTube videos, along with anime, waiting till the sun sets, and sneaking off. I get into my car, and I drive to Taco Bell. I get the food, bring it back, resume. It's the most enjoyable, comforting times of my week, but I don't really want it to be. Can I help what I find so naturally enjoyable and easy to me? But maybe I will get out of it. Maybe it's just a funk. I haven't acted like this previously than the other 3 weeks in my life, but also maybe this isn't a phase. Maybe I'm regressing. I'm becoming more sedentary, eating worse food, and becoming more addicted to it. Not just the food, but the feeling of bliss, not having to worry about maintaining friendships and relationships to nearly the extent that I used to, and at the same time, I'm becoming a little more anxious when I go to class, when I'm in large groups. I'm not nearly as bad as Sato or Misaki, but I heard in a discussion video months ago something along the lines of, a lot of the enjoyment someone can get out of the show is based on how well they can relate to the main character, and I can't help but believe that that is true. Where they grow to find each other, I will also grow through others. Although the show ends on an ambiguous note, I have to say that it ends optimistically ambiguous. And so should you view your own life if you find yourself in the shoes of the people like me or like the characters in this story. You will find happiness, but you need to seek it. Not all people get lucky like Sato. Some people are like Misaki, who desperately search for help until they find it their own way. Is Sato a worthless human being? Maybe. Is Sato a repeated and indulgent failure? Absolutely. Can he do better? I think so. When he's pulled out later in the series and he has nothing left, he has to leave. It's leave or die slowly, a harsh, cold, very real-world consequence, and it forces him to step forward. Is this permanent? Who knows? In one of my favorite episodes of Mumke's anime reviews, an especially cheery one, Mumke said this:
"Its effects may lessen or increase from day to day, but don't be fooled. Depression is a life sentence. Once it takes hold of you, it is impossible to fully recover from."
So will Sato stay out of it? Will Misaki be forever content with her worth being derived just from one person? Will they grow to know how to find value in themselves? To learn to like baseball just because they were given one? The real question being postulated by this material, I think, is self-reflective. Can you grow out of your vices and do better? And how will your ending come? Because at the end of the day, that's how it is. Self-help books, advice, and possibly medication can't cure it, because it's something individual to each person. What makes you happy? What gives you worth? How can you find that? These can only be answered by yourself, and videos like these are part of my personal answers. Do not fear that you won't get better. Find solace and hope in your time spent here. Worth is created by desire. If you personally don't see your worth, there will be someone else who does. Friends, family, relationships. And if you haven't met them yet, you will. You just have to reach out. And if it seems like nothing is coming from it, reach out again and again and again. You do have value, and you will make it through, whether it be days or years. Learn to grow while you are here, though. In Hitori Bochi.